I'm gonna pause the rec. All right. Good morning. Today is week one, the first class for Numerology and Me. I welcome Nicole on the Zoom, and I have Carline here with me in person, and we're going to talk about numerology. I'm really excited, and it's not only numerology, it's psychosomatic numerology. So I just want to set the ground rules here. If there's any questions at any time, if I'm not being clear, please stop me so that we can make sure everybody's clear. All right. So let me do this. I'm going to start the presentation. I'm going to bring up the presentation so you can see it. We have it here, but I'm going to bring it up right now. And I'm very happy to say that, tell me, can you see it, Nicole?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, perfect. Zoom was not behaving this morning. So I'm glad to say that Zoom is behaving, and we are in Mercury retrograde, and we do have a full moon now. So the good news is this is going to be a fun Mercury retrograde. This is actually, you know what Mercury retrograde means? Okay, good. Do you, Nicole?
Yeah.
Okay. So Mercury retrograde, 4 times a year, the planet Mercury in the solar system, it looks like it's going backwards. So what happens with the planet, and the planet of Mercury is a planet of communications, travel, technology. And what happens when it appears to be going backwards in the sky is things have been known. There's been communications get misdelivered. Travel plans seem not to go the way you plan them to be. And technology tends to go a little frazzled. So, but it happens in different signs. And what's happening with this Mercury retrograde is it's actually going to, it's going to be a full circle moment when something comes back up with regards to something very old in your life that you thought you probably put to bed. And you're going to have this opportunity to look at it again. The pace, it's not going to be urgent because it lasts for 3 weeks. But what you end up getting to do is you get to make a decision again and really put it in your past so that you don't have to deal with it. So when things come up again and you say, God, I thought we already dealt with this. Why are we doing this again? It's going to be that. So this, it's in a really good position. So that's a good thing. And the full moon is all about creating intentions, right? And so it's good space for clearing and starting this class. So this is really a great space. So I'd love to take a quick minute with each of you and ask you what had you want to participate in numerology in the class. If you want to start, Carline.
Yes, I've always been interested. I love working with numbers, but I've always been interested in numerology. I just didn't have the right guidance, the right tools, the right person to teach me. And it was just, I guess, a matter of time. I've read up on it. I have books on numerology, which I haven't finished, but I've always been interested. Beautiful. And I feel like, I don't know how to explain, like the numbers are calling me. I don't know how to explain. Maybe I'm saying it wrong, but
no,
you know what I'm saying?
There's a connection.
Yes.
There's a connection.
Yes.
This morning when I was clearing and setting the intention for the day, it was all about being in clear communication and being in alignment with our greatest and highest good, and making sure that there's a clear space that we're protected and we have no negativity around us. So the alignment, it's what actually brought me to numerology. It clicked for me when I started. As soon as I saw numerology, it was like, this makes perfect sense. It's like I've done this before. So you're in the right place. Great. How about you, Nicole?
I really liked it ever since you did my chart. I thought it was always really good to have like an extra niche from massaging. So I just found it really interesting, especially when you can tell a lot about somebody just from numbers and it just blows their mind.
And you know what else, that's perfect, because what happens is it is an open door to literally somebody's soul. It's like your soul purpose is in the numbers, and you can connect on such a deeper level when you see and you're invited into somebody's life. So wow, that's great. I'm so excited about being able to start this class. So just a little bit about me as we get started. So I'm going to go to the next slide. I like to call myself an empowerment coach. So I'm a coach. I'm not, or a mentor, somebody who just kind of is sharing my view of what this is. I've done a lot of research on this. My whole life has led me to this moment and where I am. And I started out, having experiences when I was 19 years old, where when my grandmother passed, she had cancer. She was the sweetest, most wonderful woman in the whole wide world. And when she died, I did not take it well. I was 19 years old. She was the first very close person that I ever had. And 3 days after she passed, she came to me in a dream. And we actually sat in her living room. And it was not her living room, even though it was, because normally they were on a very busy street. So there was always traffic. So you knew, but we were sitting in her living room. And she said to me, one of the first things I said, I'm so sorry about this. I miss you so much. I wanted you to be here. She looked at me and she says, honey, I'm pain free. I have no pain. She lived her whole entire life and she was never someone who shared her pain with us. Physical. She had rheumatoid arthritis and she suffered. This poor woman suffered. And so I was like, oh my goodness. And I never knew. And she said, but I'm here, honey. I'm here. All you have to do is call me. We can meet again. From that moment on, I never feared death, ever. I knew my grandmother was with me. And she would come to me sometimes in dreams, sometimes wide awake, but it was the beginning of my spiritual awakening. It was the beginning of my connection and my journey through life. And I've had these synchronicities. I've had, all kinds of experiences that have led me here. So it's just a culmination. And I think I probably shared with both of you that my destiny is that I'm a 9. A 9 is a very old soul, and a 9 is someone here who's having their last incarnation in physical. And so it's to close the karma. But my purpose here is to make the world a better place and to help everyone to find out who they are and bring that to them. So my intention for today is to see, and I see you both as souls, beautiful, perfect souls, and to show you and remind you of the beauty that I see in you through numerology to be able to do this. So that's who I am. 27 years, I put 27, it's longer than that, but that's what I'll admit to. But anyways, so that's a little bit about me. The next slide, we're going to talk about your energy centers and so you probably heard of numerology before, but we're talking about a very specific kind of numerology, and it's psychosomatic numerology. Psychosomatics is, well, I'm going to ask you, can anybody share with me what psychosomatic is? If you've ever heard of a psychosomatic illness or something like that, what do you think psychosomatic means?
I'm gonna take a stab at it. Psychosomatic. Psycho, it's in the mind. To me, it's if you feel you can't do something, well, guess what? You won't do it. I could be wrong, but I'm going by the word, and I'm assuming that's what it means. I don't know.
But you're on the right track. You're absolutely on the right track. Psychosomatic. Do you have anything to add, Nicole?
It's like it's a relation to your mind and your body, pretty much.
The body-mind connection. And you're absolutely right, is if you think it and you feel it, it is, right? So we're spiritual beings. We have a soul, we have a higher self, and we are having a human experience, right? And we have these thoughts and we have feelings. And the way I explain feelings, it's kind of evolved over time, but the way I look at feelings is feelings are linked to our physicalness. So we have feelings and they're signposts. They're signposts because they're here designed to get us to pay attention, to wake up, right? And to be in this moment, because the past is in the past. It's okay. And the present is now, is where the power is. And the future is yet to be, the planned future, right? Because we don't know what's coming. So our power is in the now. So what happens is an emotion comes up in this moment, and we have this opportunity for soul growth, because that's why we're here. Our purpose of being physical is that we're human and we make mistakes. And we have soul agreements, which we will be able to validate in the numbers, with souls that we have been with in the past that have actually agreed before we incarnated to be in our lives to help us on this journey. So as physical beings, a lot of times we don't want to make mistakes. We beat ourselves up for making mistakes. It takes a very enlightened soul, and believe me, I don't do this. I surround myself with good people. Sometimes I do. I'm thankful when I do. But when you have that moment and you go, okay, this happened for a reason. What's the lesson here? Why is this coming to me? Because if I have a choice, left or right, and I choose left, and there's no repercussions, what have I learned? Absolutely nothing. It is through the most difficult relationships, the things that have happened to us, that we have the greatest opportunity for growth. Now, what does this have to do with the energy centers and the chakras, right? So this is an illustration of the energy centers that are actually part of our body, okay? And what happens with emotions is it's energy. And what happens is we have the opportunity, 3 different things can happen with emotions as a physical being. And we are physical beings we have free will. So that means in this moment, we can choose this, even though our soul planned this, we can choose to take another path and not to do this. And this is why I believe we come back time and time again. And this is why we up the ante and we really invite real atrocities in our life, whether it be with the parents that we chose, whether it be the circumstances of our lives, whether it happened because of our jobs, because of physical illness. It's a wake-up call. And it's always in the present moment that we have the opportunity to learn and grow. Now, my brother, I showed a picture of my brother. My brother was 10 months younger than I am. 2 years ago, he passed. He had esophageal cancer to his stomach. My brother was not ready to die. He was 58 years old when he died. He was not ready to die. He died in 5.5 months. It was very aggressive cancer. He had 3 children still, obviously has 3 children. What happened in his transformation in those 5 months was spiritual awakening, because he had a finite period of time and he His physicalness was ending, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful to see that transformation and in the alignment of being able to do this. Now, what I will say about my brother with his esophageal cancer is he also had emotions that he was not very good at expressing. And he swallowed his feelings, and he had cancer right in his throat, right here. He had a mass. And what happens with emotions when we don't express them is the energy gets stuck and it piles up on top of each other. So I'm kind of going full circle on this emotions conversation. But what do you think? I've kind of alluded to it. There's 3 things that happen to emotions that we can choose. What do you think we can do with emotions when they come up?
Instead of burying them, deal with them. Because later on in life, I believe that it's gonna show up some shape, form, or fashion. And it may show up where you don't want it to.
Yeah.
It may show up in a place where you're not ready to deal with it. So it's best to deal with it, get resolution, and move on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because what happens with emotions that you do not express nor let go is that they pile and pile. And to your point, Carline, they will rear their ugly heads. And I even go so far as to say that we attract circumstances into our lives to bring that emotion up, saying, hey, look at me. You want to deal with this sadness? Here's a sad thing. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? And so expressing and letting go emotions. And I will say one other thing about emotions and how we deal with them. A lot of times this goes back to our childhood and what we decided as a child, and it's subconscious. We don't even know we're doing it. We don't even realize we're swallowing this feeling, that we're putting it to side, or you see a child who just is sad and they cry. They cry till they're done. They just express their crying when they go to bed at night, and they're in their bed and they cry and cry and cry. And then what do? They fall asleep because it's over. It's over. We need to learn from our children. So expressing the feeling, absolutely the best way to do it. Sometimes we know it here and we don't do it. It gets stuck in our hearts. What else do you think, Nicole? What else do we do with our feelings if we don't express them? Do you have any idea? I'm putting you on the spot. Are you there? I can't hear you. Oh, you're on mute. I'm sorry.
There we go.
ahead.
You bury them. You definitely bury them. If you don't deal with them, you just let them subside.
Yeah,
And obviously, I'll bite you in the behind later.
absolutely.
Third one, I can't think of a third one. Usually it's only one or the other that I can think of.
No worries, but putting them aside, right? Resisting them, putting them, say, you know what? I don't have time for this emotion. I'll just stick with sadness. I'll just stick with sadness. It's like, I have no time. You know, when my stepson passed away at 19 years old, I had 2 little children at home. I still had a full-time job. You know, you're allowed, and who did you lose? Your father-in-law?
My father.
Your father.
Yeah.
Okay. Losing your dad, right?
Yeah.
You know, when you have these major losses in your life, I mean, you feel like you could just cry and cry and cry every day, all the time. And you say, well, now I got to go back to work. Now I've got to deal with other people, right? And if you don't allow yourself that time, right? So you put it on the shelf and you say, oh, I'll deal with it later. I'll deal with it later. And I highly recommend, by the way, grief counseling. We did grief counseling when my 19-year-old passed. I say he was my 19-year-old. I didn't have the pleasure of giving birth to him, but I was his mother. I raised him. And I'll tell you what, having the place in the space to be able to work through there is absolutely a light at the end of the tunnel. And part of what happens too is if you can go back to your earliest emotion and you can put that to bed, all the other of the same emotion, it all evaporates. So it's good. So 1 is expressing, working yourself through. 2 is actually putting it on the side, which is resisting it, like I don't feel this, or I don't want to feel this,
Mhm.
or I'm not going to deal with it now. And 3 is numbing it, which is I don't feel this at all. It's drinking, it's medication, it's antidepressants, it's shopping, whatever that is, it becomes this compulsion to fill the void. And it's prevalent. It's prevalent in our society. And what ends up happening is that energy goes into one of your chakras here, and it doesn't move unless we express it. So psychosomatics has to do with the body-mind connection with our feelings. And what we're here to do is unlock via numerology our destiny, our soul's purpose, to see our challenges and what karma we've brought into this life. We can also compare and contrast relationships in our lives and see if there are soul agreements, and put things and see where there's areas where our communication is broken, so that we can release energy. And the chart is what brings up, and it points to the areas in the chakras that you're actually having issues with. And we're going to get into this later on, where we're actually going to be able to see the areas where you're blocked. We're going to talk about the chakras. We're going to talk about the illnesses that you may already have. It doesn't mean you have to, but if you're here, you're prone to having problems in these areas. So psychosomatics, numerology is all about the body-mind connection, using numerology to do that, and the expression of the emotions and the releasing of the energy. So you think you're in the right place? Any questions before we go on?
Nope, we're good.
Awesome. Great. Next, I talked about your chakras, and I talked about the energy centers. What see on the right-hand side of the next slide shows you how the chakras align to certain areas, which if you've had readings from me and we've done your charts, and the purpose of this is we're going to have you do your chart, and you're going to be in depth. My intention is at the end of this course that you are going to know yourself inside and out. And I've correlated the numbers to the chakras. So when you look at your challenges and we get to that place, you're going to be able to look at what areas are here and how they correlate to your energy centers and where they are. And each number is associated here with a chakra. And some have more than one area, but it's like, for instance, 8. Your 8, number 1 is, and I don't know if we have 8s here. We probably have 8s here. But there's a part in your solar plexus, and there's a part in your root chakra, right? So 8 is about power and abundance, and it's in your power center, and it's also in your root. So if you're having a weakness in your root chakra or your solar plexus, and you're trying to manifest a new job, a new career, more money, these kinds of things, these are the areas where the energy's stuck. And this is where we need to look at what could be blocking us and to release that. And we can actually do that. I know we've done this before, where I can do meditations where we can kind of release and ask our spirit guides to be with us so that we can help to start to move this energy so that we can transform our lives. Any questions? Awesome.
Nope.
Perfect. Next slide is where I love David R. Hawkins. David R. Hawkins, PhD, is someone who he is a scientist. He is someone who has done extensive study around the body, mind, and energy vibrations. He's done it his whole entire career. He's since passed. He's written a book called Power versus Force. I don't know if you've heard it.
I bought it.
You read it.
No,
Did-
no,
You bought the book?
I'm in the process of reading it.
Perfect. Have you ever heard of Power versus Force, Nicole?
No, I haven't.
Let me give you the gist of it. Power versus force. The difference between power and force is a lot of times we'll use the words interchangeably, but they're very different. Force is when you're forcing a square peg in a round hole, and it requires exertion. It requires our energy in order to make something happen. A lot of times earlier in my life, I would feel like I had to make things happen. I had to make things happen at work. I had to make things happen around my education. I had to make things happen around keeping my kids in line, right? I had to force them to do something as opposed to allowing them and setting guidelines and reinforcing good behavior and watching it happen. The difference between force and power is the amount of exertion, and also power is innate. It is something you can draw to you in being. It doesn't require anything. If you're in alignment with who you are and you're being true to yourself, you are in your power. You don't have to tell your kids, I'm the boss of you. They know who you are. You know, when you're at work and you're standing in the rightness of doing something for your client or your coworkers or the mission of the company, you're in your power, right? Because you're in alignment. You believe in the mission. You believe that this is the right thing to do. So this is what we're doing. Power. So there's this hierarchy on this scale. And what he has done is he's measured the energy levels in the middle, the energy levels associated with the range of emotions, the lowest being shame. Shame is the lowest at a range of 20, which is about being humiliated, which is having a life view of misery. Like when you're in shame, you are completely powerless. A lot of times parents would use shame on their children as a tactic to get them to stop doing something. So they literally take the air out of their lungs by saying, shame on you. They invite their children to be shameful, to feel shameful. Now, what I will say is children are sponges. And what happens is when you're 0 to 7, you're just taking in your surroundings, you're learning by doing. And when a parent says something like that, you just take it on and you own it. And it becomes part of your being. I'm not going to blame a parent for doing that. I'm just going to say sometimes their intention is to stop you, to protect you, but their end result is that they stop you, but what they don't realize is the impact. What we need to do is undermine that, right? And to unwind that and to let that go and to take to our conscious level, choose to look at something again and to release any areas where we felt shame. But shame is the lowest, okay? And you can see the ratings of each emotion, starting from shame, moving up to guilt. Guilt is at a 30. That's another tactic that a lot of times workers do, bosses will do to their workers in order to get them to do things, to get things done. Then we go up to apathy, where you're feeling despair and hopeless, where you have this has to do with your energy. When you're feeling apathetic and you feel like the world is hopeless, like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, what does that do to your emotional well-being? It's draining. It's absolutely draining. But this is where you have to force and it requires something in order to do that. So then we go up to grief. Grief actually has more energy than apathy. And the reason is because there's action in grief. Grief is about sadness. It's usually you're crying, you're working your way. You could also be regretful. So something could happen where you're feeling regret for what just happened and you don't want to forgive yourself. A lack of forgiveness is a barrier to your heart and to your energy centers, and it blocks you from being your best self. Regret is, and again, we're only at 75, but we're working our way up where we have more emotion, okay, that more energy associated with that. Then fear is at 100. Fear is fight or flight, right? When something comes up for you, and believe me, you have to have some energy if you're going to run or if you're going to fight for where you are. So it's a higher level of energy. It still requires something, and it's still very depleting. A lot of the tactics that like we'll say the government has used around the pandemic is fear mongering, where they want to tell you what you need to do, but they're controlling you. They want to be able to control you and to be able to do this, but they want to tell you. And what happens is when we get stuck in fear and we don't know what to do, the answer is usually not to listen to what somebody that's provoking the fear. It's to be able to center yourself, to let it go, and to be able to do what's right for you. Then desire. Desire is at 125. Desire, people think, desire, what's wrong with desire? Isn't desire a good thing? If you want a better job or you want something. When we're talking about desire here, we're talking about the craving without getting it. So I want a bigger house, but I can't have it. I want a better relationship, but the feeling is in this moment with lack. So in other words, it's wanting without the fulfillment. So that's why desire is at 125. It requires something. Now, again, we want to be able to negate these feelings, but a lot of times people just get themselves stuck in these circular thoughts about wanting. And then what happens is the unconscious says, but I can't have it. I'm not good enough. This won't work for me, right? So it's desire without the fulfillment of having it. Okay. Then anger, 150. We're getting up there. The goal here is to see that gray line. All these emotions below the gray line are depleting. This is what requires force. So they deplete our energy. And by the way, the vast majority of the population today operates below 200. We have periods where we could just get set back and then we go into these automatic places. And our goal is to get above 200. And there's periods of time where we all go above 200, but to sustain and to be in a place where you can maintain your energy above 200 is how you're going to live your best life. Okay, so anger is an area where a lot of times what's underneath anger is lower level emotions. So something provokes us, puts us into energy. It gets us either acting out angrily, having a temper tantrum or whatever. But usually what's happening is there's lower level emotions that are underneath anger. What do you think could be underneath anger? Nicole, I'll start with you. What's
underneath?
What?
Underneath anger?
Yes. What do you think could be the provoking? What provokes you to get to an angry outburst?
A lot of things. I feel like betrayal's one.
Ooh. betrayal,
Yes,
right?
Yes, I agree. Betrayal, unresolved situation, when you have not resolved something, you can't move forward. You
Exactly.
cannot move forward until it is resolved.
Absolutely.
Betrayal, lies, yeah, betrayal, well, that falls
And
under
deceit, right?
deceit, yeah.
Deceit, absolutely.
Mhm.
And when you start peeling the onion, you're like, okay, why is this happening? I've been betrayed. Is there oh, sorry, this is Morris. Morris, yeah, good. He's just coming to say hello. I'm sorry. This is my husband, Don, by the way. Yeah, okay, good. And here's Nicole. Say hi to
Hi,
Nicole. Hey. Very good. So you're absolutely right. What's underneath anger, it provokes an emotion, emotive, and there's usually a pattern when people have, a lot of angry outbursts. But sometimes what it's important is to get below and to see, is there fear? Is there sadness? What is the core? And being able to put these aside. And then last but not least, the one underneath is pride. A lot of times people feel pride is a very good thing. And there's aspects of pride that are wonderful, right? When you have pride because, we're an American, we're proud Americans, we're proud of what we stand for, living in this country and all of that. What happens with pride is pride divides. Pride is, if I am, you are not. So it's an exclusion. It's there's good parts of pride where you feel the lightheartedness, but you look at others and you're judging how they are and how they are not in alignment. So what it does is it's a divisiveness. And it also requires that you be like me or you not be. So it's how you separate, it again, you can see how the force is there and and so it depletes your energy. Then above that, we're talking about courage. Courage is at 200. Courage, I love courage because courage, a lot of times people say, oh, you're very courageous. People have said to me, an example would be, you've lost a son, and you're so courageous. And I say, listen, I didn't sign up for this. I was assigned this. This is how it happened. It's about holding your head up in the face of the adversity and making the best of the situation. So in the case of fear, courage is facing the fear and being in action anyways. It's not that there is no fear. It's that you face what is in front of you and you move forward. And that's the first level of 200, which is where you're in your power, right? You're in your power. On top of that is neutrality, which is instead of negativity, you just put, we've all driven a car, right? Or a boat, and you put it neutral. You're not going forward, you're not going backward, right? Somebody's forcing something to go on, you put it neutral, you're in between. You're not feeling the power, the force, or the negativity. You're just in neutral. You bring neutrality. But the thing about neutrality is also that it requires something in you to trust. And so many of us lack trust in ourselves. And this could go back. This is areas that are karmic that we bring in based on previous lives or previous circumstances. And a lot of times we'll see in your chart where there's a lack of trust, either in yourself or others. And you may have a soul agreement with somebody who actually is untrustworthy. And this can be a soul agreement where they have agreed to be untrustworthy, to bring it to your life so that you can actually learn how to forgive and rebuild trust in yourself and trust in others. Now, trust doesn't mean you blindly give to others automatically, but when we block trust in our life, we block the ability to really connect on a soul level. And a lot of times this goes back to our childhood when things have happened in our younger children. We call them our inner children that are still alive and well, running the show. So you may have a 5-year-old that didn't trust because of something significant that happened, but they were only 5. They made a decision and we automatically don't trust because of this 5-year-old. It's like, oh, trust. No, this is what I do. I don't trust. You don't come here. I put up a wall. I put up a barrier. And by the way, I'm spending so much time in these emotions because this is the goal. This is the goal, to uncover this in our charts, and it's all in there. So when we can find this, so trust is a big one. Trust in yourself, trust in others. Then willingness. Oh my goodness. Now we're at 310. We're getting to a place where we're willing to give it a try. We're willing. We trust ourselves. We know that we're going to be in a circumstance. We know how capable we are. And we're like, yep, I'm going to try this. I'm going to feel the fear and I'm going to do it anyways, because I am capable of reaching for the stars and I'm going to give it a try, because if something comes up, I trust that I have what it takes to be able to negate this. And I can pull together what needs to happen. I can fall and I can pick myself up. I can learn from my circumstance and I'm going to persevere. And that's in the willingness, because so many times we're not in the place where we're even willing to try. We make a decision and we say, nope, we're not going there. We're going to resist this. We're not even going to try it. And that's not why we're here. People on their deathbeds are most regretful for what? What do you think they regret the most in their lives?
Doing things they were too afraid to do, or not doing.
Yes, it's the things that you were too fearful to even give a try. The things that are the most important in our lives. And it's like, damn, we lived this whole life and we were afraid. We lived in fear and we didn't stop. So part of this is opening. It's opening so that we can understand that, oh yeah, there's fear. I get it. Okay. I get the fear. I'm going to be courageous in the face of fear. And you know what? I am a capable person. I trust in who I am, and I'm going to go for that. Even in the face of fear, I'm going to be my best, and I'm going to surround myself with love and light and people that are going to help me, not pull me down. And I'm willing to give it a shot, right? Above that is acceptance. It is what it is, without judgment. It's not positive. It's not negative. It is. And when you can start to see something for what it really is as an obstacle, and you can choose how you're going to be, you can just walk around it or walk through it or think about what you're going to do. Not that you have to attack it. You just accept it and ask for guidance about what we're going to do now. Now what? Where do we go? What does this mean? What is this lesson? So we accept it. We forgive it. We don't allow it to control us. This is where forgiveness lives, is an acceptance. If we could go back and forgive ourselves for everything that we've done, because we've made mistakes, we judge ourselves and we hold ourselves prisoner. We put ourselves in a cell block and we have the key. And it's through forgiveness that we let it go, because the past is the past. We're not going to change it. We don't necessarily condone it. We wouldn't do it the same way again, but we have to forgive. And it starts with ourselves. And it's all about this journey of loving ourselves. Self-love is critical. Above that is reason. Reason. So you can feel the energy. Can you feel the energy shifting here as we're going higher and higher through these emotions? Reason is at 400. Reason is where we take what's happened and we try to make sense out of it. Okay? Reason is what gives us purpose, right? It's about understanding what inspires us. And it's all in the present moment, right? Now, the limitation that reason can be is, and can bring, is that reason can also stop us. So you may be enlightened and know where you want to go and then think, well, in the past, this has happened and I'm just going to stop here. I don't need to continue. It's not that it's negative, is that it's an awareness that when we bring reasons into it, that it can block us from where we need to be and where we want to go. So reason is a matter of understanding. It's a matter of acceptance. It's a matter of knowing that in your heart, that this is something that you can let go of and continue. Okay, you don't use it as a reason to stop. Okay, then we get into love at 500. When you can be in a place of love and you can bring love to and compassion to anyone or any circumstance in your life. So if you can bring love to a person who is in grief, what do you think that would look like? What could bringing love to somebody, now that we could try to feel it, which we don't necessarily have to, right? So when we empathize versus sympathize, which do you think is associated with love and self-love and taking care of someone? Empathize brings love. What do you think, Nicole? You're on mute again, sweetheart.
I'd say empathize.
Empathize. You're both right. So empathize, when you sympathize with somebody, you're actually taking their emotions. So a lot of times when we go and we'll say, I have sympathy, I'm sympathizing with you, right? I'm taking on your emotion. What you want to do is bring love, and you want to bring empathy. You're bringing love to them without taking on. Now you can understand to a certain degree what they're going through. So you bring empathy, right? As opposed to sympathy means I'm there with you. I'm at this level here, and you can see how sympathy can absolutely drain you. And when you bring empathy, you're bringing your love and your light, which actually helps to raise them up. So empathy is absolutely the way to be. Love is also about looking, and we're going to talk about self-love and how important self-love is. Love is reverence for self. So we are having this human experience in this physical body that is imperfect, perfectly imperfect. And when we can honor and revere ourselves with and through our imperfections, we're in a state of love. And the way to love ourselves is through our imperfections. So many times what we do is we beat ourselves up because we're imperfect. We don't like the way we look. We don't like what we just said. We don't like our thoughts. We could have done it better. Instead of looking at ourselves and accepting and loving ourselves for having the opportunity to grow. Because that's what we're here to do, is grow and experience. So when I talk about, emotions, these emotions being a signpost, it's actually a bridge. And it leads you to soul enhancement, which is why we're here. So if we can bring love by revering ourselves and accepting ourselves and nurturing ourselves exactly as we are, wow. Love is at 500. Joy is at 540. Having the ability to be in a place of joy, to tune into things that make us joyful, jovial, laughter, to tap into and give ourselves the opportunity to be, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through self-expression, through art, through dance, through music, through poetry, through journaling, whatever that is. And tapping into that is a gift to having ourselves be the best that we can be. Absolutely. Above joy is peace. I don't know about you, but part of my ritual at night, at the end of the day, is creating a place of peace and tranquility and creating a space and asking for world peace across the planet. Because when we are in war, we're absolutely in force. We're absolutely where people are trying to force others to do what they need to do. And peace completely negates in all of that. And then above peace is enlightenment. It is what it is. It accepts the universe. It accepts the oneness. It accepts our unity with the source. I am is being in unity with the power that we have of the universe and that we can tap into at any moment in time. So any comments, any questions, any clarifications about the levels of consciousness and the emotions?
Nope, I'm good.
So that's power versus force. That is, that was a long explanation of, the emotions and the grades, but this is what builds on the psychosomatics and what the numerology is. And as you can see, when you have, the books that you've read, they talk about, your soul's purpose. They talk about your challenges. They talk about what the numbers mean. But what we do is we're taking it to a whole nother level. Okay, Maggie, go to your bed. We're taking it to a whole nother level, which has to do with our spirituality and our oneness with, with and why we're here. So next slide. Levels of consciousness have to do, this is just a summation, a different look of David Hawkins. On the very bottom, you see the red zone. On the very bottom, it's inertia. We talked about the energy levels being so low that you do nothing. You're inert. You can't get out of your own way. If you go into shame, if you go into guilt, you go into apathy, you're inert. Okay. Hyperactivity is the fear. It's the anger, right? It's those levels that have you in hyperactivity. You're in mode, but you're still in negativity. So the goal here is to get out of the red zone, right? To not get stuck in the negativity, to notice the patterns where we get caught, where someone brings up something that brings us back down, and to be able to negate that and to move forward. Happy and productive is between 200 and 350, which is courage and forgiveness. I'll tell you, if we can live in happy and productive, and we can take happy and productive in zone 1 and bring it to the inert in the hyperactivity zones, we're going to be living a life that is satisfying and fulfilling. And that's our goal. And then to be able to reach your peak performance without stress. I mean, we all live in stress, and this is understanding. This is 400 and above, up to love. And then 500 and above is about synchronicity, where you realize that you're in the right place at the right time. We've had this conversation before, where we talk about you're in the right place at the right time. Life is presenting you with circumstances that are strongly requesting your attention. Okay. So when you can get to that place and you can honor that, this is not happening for a reason. What am I not seeing? What do I need to look at? You know, if you bring this to your meditative practices, this is where you want to be. Okay. I think I beat this horse to death. What do you think?
That's fine.
Okay, good. All right. Next slide. Now we're going to talk about numerology. Yay, this is why we're here. All right. So we're talking about your core numbers. I call it the blueprint of your soul. It's the blueprint. When you're building a home, you need a blueprint. You need to know it's the pieces that bring us all. So in the numerology, so everything is a blueprint. Everything is the blueprint of your destiny. It's all based on 2 things. When we do your chart, it's based on 2 things. The first thing, Nicole, is what?
Your destiny.
Oh, your destiny is beautiful. And how do we get to our destiny? What do we calculate that based on our date?
Date of birth.
Date of birth. 2 things. This is all we need to get all these information. Your date of birth and the name you go by. Now, the more names you go by, the more confusing your life gets to be. Okay? Because you were given a name when you were born, and that's your potential. And then there's nicknames, there's names that you go by, there's names we change our names to. It gets more and more complicated. However, through this complication, there's simplicity, because once we do your numbers and we align with what our destiny is, we choose our name and how we present ourselves so that we immediately align with the frequencies and we gain the benefit of the numbers that are all a part of who we are. Now, I want to share something with you right now. I recently this week, it's funny because I had an awareness, and it has to do with our numerology. And my husband started a new job, and he got a business card, and they created a business card. And this is somebody that's known my husband for a very long period of time. So our last name is Lemlin, and he wrote his name and he spelled it wrong because he says it right. And I tell people that all the time. I say, my name is Lemlin, Lemlin. It's not spelled that way, but if you say it, Lemlin, you're saying it right. So this person gave him a business card and he spelled it Lemlin, Lemlin. And what happens now, I went from a name that nobody pronounced right ever. And it was terrible. I was so happy to take my husband's name when we got married 36 years ago, because I said, wow, I'm going from S at the end of the alphabet, because everything in school was in alphabetical order. I'm going to the middle of the alphabet, and it's an easy name, Lemlin. Oh, how easy, right? The E in the middle confuses everybody. It's Lemelin. They go Lemelin. Lemelin or Lemelin. So funny, right? So my name, Carrie Lemlin. This week, when I saw my husband's card, I said, I never did the numerology, spelling the name the way it's pronounced. Profound impact on my life. I now spell my name Lemlin. It's on the bottom of the deck. My cards are on the way. I am eliminating so that people say my name right. And what it has done to my numerology is remarkable. My challenges were sixes. They still are 6066. The numerology comes to 66, a master number repeating, which we've talked about and we will talk about. So 6 plus 6 is 12, 1, 2. So it gives me a 1 and a 2, which I am lacking in my name. And 1 plus 2 equals 3. 3 is all about being a communicator. It's all about being in communication with so many vibrations as a mentor, as a coach, if I'm not in good communication. So my name is now Carrie S. Lemlin. That's the way I spell it. And it's the way in my business. So that I'm a 66123. The minute I got it, my life changed. I could feel the impact of the numbers being available to me. So now I had a 1, I had a 2, I had 2 6s, which minimize the impact of my, it's just so profound. It is so profound. All because of my expression. Now, I think I've told you before, I may have said, when I first got married, I didn't use my middle initial. I used Carrie Lemlin. And what happened is I went into a 7. You're going to know, both of you are going to know about this. A 7 is probably one of the worst. It is the worst expression you can carry because nobody understands you. So I went from somebody who was a very expressive, very well understood person with my maiden name. I went to Carrie Lemlin, and all of a sudden nobody understood me. People couldn't follow me. They thought I was smart, but they couldn't understand me. So this expression is so important. And I believe that I had to become a Carrie Lemlin so that I could experience the downside of a 7. And now I have the opportunity to be Carrie S. Lemlin with the 6612-3, which is something I'm going to share with you as we go along. So awesome. Date of birth and the name you use today is how we open up to our name. It has to be the name that you use today and what you do. And what we determine is your blueprint destiny. This is probably the #1 question we get asked as numerologists. What am I here for? What's my purpose? Why am I here? Why am I here? I don't know. And then what happens, it's so funny, all the charts that I've done over all the years that I've done it, everyone goes, I knew that. It's confirmation. It's confirmation of who you are and what you are. So it's nothing that you're going to pull out of the air and somebody's going to say, I have no understanding of what you're telling me. It's not that at all. It's going to be like, you're exactly right. And now it's conscious. It brings it to the consciousness. So what we're doing is we're bringing things from the unconscious to the conscious. Yay. So that's your blueprint destiny. And underneath your destiny, I have your journey cycle, which has to do with the years that we follow. We talked about the 9-year cycle. So this is from your date of birth. The first part of your chart has to do with your date of birth. The first half of your chart is simply the date of birth. When you are comparing and contrasting and you are looking at somebody with you, if you have the date wrong, it's not going to work. It is absolutely not going to work. So, and the other thing that we also, I'm going to talk about it right now with the numbers. So when we get to the point where in your homework this week is going to be to come up with your destiny, and it's going to be based on your date of birth, and you're going to do your destiny. You're going to calculate it out, and we're going to talk about how to do that. But when you do your destiny and you look at the pieces that are part of it, you're going to get the big number, you're going to add the big number together, and you're going to get the little number. And if it's a master number, you're going to keep the master number and keep the little number. Master numbers are repeating numbers. You're going to do that. You're going to look at this. You're going to know. We're going to talk about how there's a positive, there's a negative, and there's a critical to every number. you are going to have positive, negative, and critical aspects of who you are. Let me give you an example. My daughter has friends and they're twins and they have the same birthday. They have different names, their expressions are different, but their destiny is the same, their challenges are the same and everything else. Do you think their charts are exactly the same? They look the same. Manifestations completely different. This one's got the positive of this one's got the negative of this one has the critical of this. They're there. They have soul agreements all over the place because their birthdays are exactly the same. So they're on this journey together, but they're different manifestations of the same number. Why? Soul growth. They're here to help each other by seeing the opposite side of this number and that number. So there's always a positive and negative, but what I'm going to say to you is the number is the number. It's just how you're looking at it. A 3 is a 3 is a 3. There's a positive side of 3. There's a negative side of 3. And there's a critical side. You choose. When you get rid of your negative emotions and your negative subconscious, you get to negate the negativity and choose the positivity of the number. You are the number. It's how you look at it. It's your journey. It's your life. It's what you made your life mean, how your number manifests. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Good. So your destiny is your destiny. It's why you're here. It's your purpose. Next, we're going to get your blueprint challenges, all based on your date of birth. All based on your date of birth. You're going to look at your challenges. There's a challenge from the early part of your life, and we're going to determine how long that challenge is prevalent in your life. Then there's another phase, the next phase, which is the second challenge in your life. Then you're going to get to the third challenge, which we call the major challenge, the lifelong challenge. The third challenge is the lifelong challenge. You have it throughout your life. So we always look, when we look at the challenges, we look at their age now, and we look at the lifelong challenge. And then of course, the fourth challenge is later on in life. Now, what I will tell you is the lifelong challenge is always going to be there. Okay. It's always going to be in the background. You may get stuck in your first challenge and you may not lose that challenge if you don't express those feelings and you don't get to the positivity of that number. So you're going to be in this negative number, no doubt, and the critical. If you can't transform that, you jump into the second challenge. Guess what? You've got the lifelong challenge, you've got the first challenge, and you've got the second challenge. Triple whammy at that stage of your life. And then what happens as you get older is you gain the fourth challenge. Now, the goal is to work with your major challenge, lifelong challenge, and to negate this through. Now, a lot of times what I am seeing in charts is that people have repeating challenges, repeating numbers. My challenge, I told you I'm a very old soul. I am here to complete the karma, to make a difference in the planet as we are here at this time. My challenge is 6066. 3 6s. 3 6s. My challenge is a 6. 6 is all about community, friends, family. It's about being responsible, or in the negative side, taking responsibility for those things I have no responsibility for. Being stressed because I'm trying to enlighten and show others, or people are looking at me and they're saying, oh, you can do this. Why don't you do this for me? And me doing it, thinking I'm doing them a favor. I'm not doing them a favor. I'm actually preventing them from learning the lesson that they need to learn. If I do it for them, they've learned nothing. So my lifelong challenge is a 6. And this is what, and I just gained 2 6s in my name. So what does that do to my 6s? It gives me that awareness. It gives me the opportunity to be able to do that. So what questions do you have about challenges? Any challenge questions? Any fear around challenges? Does fear come up?
There'll always be fear. You just have to face it. Just keep chipping away at it and then just keep moving forward. Don't let it hinder you or stop you from doing what you need to do or have to do.
Exactly. You're exactly right.
It will always be there. You just have to know how to maneuver and just
face it.
Yeah, that's it. Face your
And
fear.
see where fear comes up and have the courage, right, to be able to do this. Now, what I will say about challenges is it's nothing to fear. It's the opportunity for growth. Oh my goodness. Morris, is he just sitting there?
No,
Oh, he
that's
went over
fine.
there. Okay. Be a good boy. Be a good boy. Any questions about challenges, Nicole?
Nope, we're good.
No fear. Good, good, good. Well, and here's what happens. A lot of times people get stuck in their challenges and they don't get through them. They live in their challenges for their whole entire life. Attainments are based on your date of birth as well. And attainments are what you can get to. This is actually the end result. This is the reward at the end of the tunnel that you can achieve once you get through these challenges. So these challenges are designed so that this is what you're going to get. So a lot of times we come in with karma, and let me just use an example. There could be a karma around a 4. It could be a 13-4. 13-4 is karmic. We'll talk about some of these, but 1-3, 1 + 3 is 4. And it's all about stability. And if you have a challenge in stability, a lot of times in children's youth, especially when people have 13-4 in their charts in their youth, very traumatic childhood, lack of stability. A lot of times there could be sickness. It's physical. It could be their sickness or somebody around them very sick. It could be somebody that dies, like a parent or a significant person in their life. It usually is, it could be divorce. It could be that their household, a lack of money, lots of stress. When there's 4s in people's childhood, it is as a result of them having to step up and be strong. And they learn by doing. They're actually people that are in lockstep with doing, but at an early age. So a lot of times you may have a parent. It could be a single parent situation, and their parent could be an alcoholic, and they have younger siblings, and they have to step up. They have to step up and take care of, and they have to learn how to cook. And these are young children that go through these, but what happens is you can have a lifelong challenge around stability. And what happens is they develop fears around this, but you can have attainments, which is a 13-4, which means you get and you become this place of stability, that you have this knowledge, and your work ethic is exemplary. You know by doing. You share with others because you are this pillar of organization. So the positive side, so this may be an attainment. When it's in your chart as a youth, it can be on the negative side, or it could be a challenge. But when it's as an attainment, this means, whoa, you are like the pyramid. You are the base. You are rock solid. You're someone who really knows what you're doing, and you do it to a level where people come to you for that. So an attainment as a 13-4 is something that is very stabilizing. It's very comforting. So when you see the attainments, a lot of times when you see attainments, you'll see things like you'll see 8s, which are all about manifestation. which is all about abundance, which is all about love and connection, right? So you'll see this in attainments, which is where you're going. Now, if you choose with all these emotions not to work through your emotions, don't work through your challenges in these blockages, there's no chance that you're going to get there. This is going to be an example of your life where you're going to get to the pearly gates and they're going to say, what did you do in this lifetime? And they're going to say, I had this opportunity and I resisted my emotions. I put them aside. I didn't express them. I didn't go for the brass ring, right? I let fear stop me. This is how, am I starting to make sense about how the chart is going to give you access to being able to do this? Great. And then your cycle year, 9-year cycles. That's an exercise that we're absolutely going to do in 2 weeks, where you're going to write down, you're going to know from age 1 all the way to your current age. We're going to look at achievements and milestones, achievements or major setbacks that happened in those years. And we're going to bring that to class and we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what this means, because we're going to look at your cycle year and we're going to see how these things line up to the cycle year that you're in. And it's going to blow your mind. It's going to blow your mind. So more along that. Okay, moving on. Blueprint expression, the name you go by. Every letter has a number associated with it. It's in the presentation. We're going to go to it. We're going to talk about that, and you're going to have to memorize these. You're going to have to memorize what's number 1, what's 2, what's 3, what's 4. And I mean, you can always use the reference charts to be able to do it, but it's going to be in your best interest if you memorize, because when you're calculating, you know, you want to be able to calculate somebody's name. You're going to be able to do that, knowing the numbers. And if you get it wrong, it's all wrong. So if you think it's a 2 and it's a 3, the expression's not gonna, it's gonna land flat, because it's not gonna be true. It's not gonna be true when you're doing that and comparing and contrasting to yourself. Now, one of the things that I do is whenever I'm gonna meet with somebody, as you know, I've been a consultant and I interact with people all the time. And I will take their vibration, their name, and I'll calculate their name. Calculate their name right away. And I speak to them as their number. The number, however they've been introduced to me, I go, whether it's a 1, 2, 3, it doesn't matter, whatever the number is, I speak to that number. And we always have communication. There is a chart that I'm going to be able to share with you where you can start to compare vibrations, expressions with that. And I've done that with partners. I think I did it with you and Connor and you and your husband, where I say, oh, yep, mostly compatible, because you look at this and there's mostly compatible. But sometimes there's incompatibilities and there's certain numbers that are completely incompatible. However, you, as an enlightened person who can see what their communication is, you can speak to that number. So if I'm speaking to a 7, I know how to speak to a 7. The way you speak to a 7, because I was a 7 in my expression, the way you speak to a 7 is you never tell them what to think. A 7 is a very, very smart person. They know what they know, but they want to determine it for themselves. So if you're speaking to somebody, and let's just say your boss is a 7, okay? And you come in and you have an idea. You have an idea that you want to present to your boss. You never tell them the bottom line. What you do is you come to them and you say to them, I have an idea that I'd like to present to you. And I've done extensive research, which is going to speak to them, because they want to know that you're credible, because they don't even listen to people that they don't deem as credible. So if you say, I've done the research and I've done all this information, I'd like to present it to you, that's what you would do. And then what you do is you give them all the details and you outline for them succinctly what the circumstances are and put it in context. So you say, I know we're having problems with meeting our numbers at the end of this year. And I've been thinking about this extensively, and I'm very compelled to want to exceed. And I've done the research on these areas. I see it as these 3 areas that are impacting this. And here's some data I'd like to present to you. So I've done the research, I've given this information, I'd love to give this to you, and I'd love to regroup with you and get your thoughts and share my input if that's okay. How many times do people present these kinds of things like that to their boss? If you're speaking to a 7, they're going to be like, absolutely, I'm going to take a look at it. Or typically what would happen is they say, this person doesn't know what they're talking about. They don't even know what we're talking about here. I need to get to my next meeting, right? But this is how you speak to somebody when they are their expression, and how you can get through and how you can start to have a dialogue. The other thing you can explain to them too, is if you're doing their charts, is the downside of being a 7 and how people don't understand what they're saying, but that's a whole nother side of it. Okay. It's also important to understand your soul urge, your blueprint soul urge has to do with the letters in your name. So if your name is Nicole and you spell it without an E, the different pieces, you have a missing 5 in your name, right? And what we're doing is we're looking at the consonants and the vowels in your name. Okay, so your soul urge has to do with how you spell your name and how many consonants, and we add all that up and all the pieces come together, and this is your heart's desire. This is what you want in your life. Again, this is all in the subconscious. This is all subconscious, so we're going to get into that. When we talk about your blueprint inner self, this is the vowels associated with your name, okay? And this has to do with where your talents are. This is your God-given gifts. This is what helps you to be you. So many times we have these gifts and talents, like numerology, like spiritual awakening, like art, science, dance, expression, poetry. And we just assume everybody has these gifts. But this is where your gifts are stored. And this is how you are going to be your best person. So, and this is all in the expression. Karmic lessons. Ooh. This is all based on what you have in your chart. It's your whole chart. You can see if there's karmic, and there's certain number groups that come out, and these are karmic. This is something that you've had from a past life that you're here to resolve. Or not. Your choice. Your choice. Temperament behavior. Blueprint temperament behavior. This is where we look at your expression and we see how you make decisions based on the number, the letters and the numbers associated with those. The areas that you are lacking is, if it's in other areas of your chart, that's a good thing. But this is how you make decisions. And there's 4 areas that you could potentially make decisions. It could be on a logical, linear place. This is where people, and you're going to see how they make decisions. 2 is emotional decisions. Never good. If people are emotional decision makers, this is an opportunity for us to help them. First to uncover, then we have to, and there's where the emotions lie. This is where emotions rule them, and it pulls them down, and it's usually not those good high-level emotions. The other is physical. Physical decision makers make decisions based on physical attributes. What's this going to do? Is this going to help me to buy this car? Is this going to help me to get a better job? Is this going to help me to have a better relationship? It has to do with physical, tangible things. If you have someone that you're trying to convince and they're a physical decision maker, it's imperative that you put it in terms that they understand. Because if you're an emotional decision maker and they're a physical, you're going to revert to your emotional ways, and they're going to look to their physical ways. especially when we do couples, we always look at where they make decisions and how they communicate, especially if there's an incompatibility, a slight incompatibility in how you communicate. Making decisions is a great way to bridge the gap. And then last but not least is about your intuition, your intuitive side. There are some people who make decisions based on their gut and only their gut. They don't look at the facts. They don't look at their emotions. They don't care how it makes them feel. It's not about the job. They go, am I going to go left or right? I'm going to go left. And they go left. And that's it. And they follow their gut. It's actually when people have that intuition and they follow it, a lot of times people don't follow it, which isn't a good thing. So you want to help them to follow it. But it's actually one of the easiest and the most effective ways to make decisions. So, and that's all based on their name. So we're going to go through this, and I gave you like a synopsis at a high level of what this is. Are you excited about being able to find out all about yourself in these areas?
Yep.
And you're going to be able to calculate it for yourself. And you're going to know the ins and outs of your chart. So my goal is to have you know all about yourself and have it in depth by the end. All right. Next, here's a chart, and it's my chart. And by the way, it's the updated chart that I just did. Oh, look at that. I put the wrong, well, the first one, what I did, if you look in the upper left-hand corner, it says Carrie S. Lemlin. The E is in the middle. And the reason I put that chart there is because the first part of the chart is the same, because it's on my date of birth. So I did not put the Carrie Lemlin, but on the right-hand side, if you look, it is Lemlin, and it's the new numbers, and it's the new vibration based on removing the E. Now, what you'll be able to do is you're going to be able to compare and contrast the one side and the other side of the chart. The old me, which my expression was an 8, and the new me is the 66-3, which is a master number, to be able to do that. So that's all based on my old and new, and we're going to go into it. Now, on the very bottom, you see on the highlight in the lower right-hand corner, this is the blueprint temperament. So this is all based on my expression. Notice I've got highlighted physical and intuitive, 4 and 4. With my new vibration, I have a balance in being physical and being intuitive. Whereas my other chart on the left-hand side, the Carrie S. Lemlin with the E in the middle, it was more physical than intuitive. My stronger was physical as a 5 because I had that E. And the intuitive was strong, but not necessarily. Now, what I will say is even with the 5 and the 4 on the left-hand side, if I kept my name with the E in the middle, I can choose my intuition. I have a gut and I rely on my gut. And a lot of times, if I don't have time to make a decision, I will use that muscle to use my intuition. And I test it a lot, but now what this does with my expression is it gives it to me without even thinking about it. So I will encourage people, especially if they have a strong emotional decision making, I will encourage them to work on their intuition. But I will absolutely look at what their second highest. That's okay. The second highest, do you need to take that?
No.
Okay. Okay, no worries. I'll look at their second highest temperament is, and we'll look at being able to strengthen that, but I always bring in the intuition. And some people, you'll find some people have no intuition at all, and they have no gut. And it's like, I encourage them to start to look for opportunities to be able to do that. So that's where some of the coaching kind of comes in when we're doing our charts. Any questions on my chart and my expression? All right. We're going to dive into what we're here to talk about. What time is it? Oh my God, it's 10:30 already. Okay, we're gonna be able to do this really quickly. I mean, do you have a hard stop at 10:30? Do you,
I
Nicole?
need to be done by 11.
Okay,
So-
11, cool. So I promise you, we'll get this done by 11. And I'm just gonna go into what you're gonna do. This is my chart. And I'm gonna walk you through this in your homework, which is the last page here, is a blank version of this. So you're gonna fill in your chart. You're gonna put your name and you're gonna fill in your date of birth and you're gonna calculate based on your date of birth, these areas, which is the top part of your chart, okay? So this is gonna be your homework. So we're just gonna talk about my chart. And this is based on my date of birth and the name that I go by here, but we're not gonna get into that right now, but we're gonna get into it. So what we've done here is my birthday is February 26, 1961. What we do with numerology is we add the numbers together all across. If you look here under month, we're gonna look at the month, we're gonna look at the day, we're gonna add those up, we're gonna look at the year, we're gonna add those up, and we're gonna bring those down to a single digit. Okay, so the top line is your date of birth as it is, and we are going to add. So below it, 02, 0 plus 2 is 2. So under the month, it's a 2. Under the day, now where this will change is if your birthday is in November and you have two numbers. Because what we're gonna do is we're gonna have 11/2. Because 11 is a repeating number and it's a master number. So if your birthday is in November, in this case, it will be 11/2 because you are both 1, 1, 2, and 11. 11 has meaning in and of itself if you live up to your 1 and your 2, then you become an 11. There are people who are 11/2s that are just stuck in their 1 and they're not being a 1. And we'll talk about the meanings of the numbers, but I'm just saying, so if your birthday is November, it's an 11/2. Otherwise, you're going to bring it down to a single digit. Clear? Okay. Then we go into the day. My birthday is the 26th. 2 plus 6 equals 8. So 8 is on the bottom. Okay, but the birthday is 26. Now, I will say when I'm comparing and contrasting and when we're getting into our challenges, you know, we're going to use the single digits. Okay, but when we're comparing and contrasting, it's important to understand the numbers that are in there. So it's like the Prego sauce, you know, when they say it's in there, it's in there and it makes a difference, especially if your challenge, for instance, let me say my challenges were 2s, right? Let's say my challenges were 2s and I was born in February and my day was 26. Even though it's an 8, the 2 is in there. So I would look in my chart to see if I have mitigators, which is I have 2s already. Someone who has challenges with their 2s that has no 2s in their chart has severe challenges in these areas. And you're going to know it because you're going to look, do they have it in their name? And if they don't have it in their name, you're going to say, how do we get some 2s in here? 2s are B, K, and T. If they have a middle initial that's K and they don't use it and their challenges are 2s and they have no 2s in their name, but they have severe challenges with 2s, it might be that you might suggest that the K be something that they start to use because it would mitigate the negativity of the 2s. Now, the negativities of a 2, oh my goodness. If you're in your -2, 2 is all about, well, first of all, in the positive, a 2 means that you're somebody who is very aware of emotions. A lot of times they carry the emotions on their sleeve. They're extremely sensitive. They can be very sensitive, but they can also be peacekeepers. There are also people who see both sides of a story. They're very balanced, right? So they'd be the kid that would see their parents arguing and can see both sides of the story and say, but mom, that's not what dad meant, you know, and then they try to put themselves, and they'll go to tremendous lengths, including sacrificing themselves to keep the peace. So in other words, somebody wants something done, like the mom needs something to be done. The kid steps up and does it instead of going out and playing, right? They will do the thing that will try to make their mother happy. They sacrifice themselves, which isn't a good thing, but that could be somebody who is challenged with their twos, right? They're challenged in the negative side of it, right? And what you're going to find too is numbers travel in groups. So 1s and 2s travel together, and 7s and 8s travel together, and certain numbers just lend themselves to each other. So in other words, a 1 is all about leadership. A 2 is about sitting in the back seat, right? So you have somebody that's leading, somebody that wants to follow. But the 2 in the background, they're following, but they've got judgments about where they should be going. They just don't want to be that person in the front. So you're going to find out that there's comparisons, and there's numbers, and that there's things that they may be weak in their 1, but they're also weak in their 2. And the challenge to help to be a stronger 2 is to step into your 1. So you're going to see that some of these things happen also as you start to dive into the numbers. Okay. Am I making this completely complicated?
No.
Okay, good. I don't want to make this complicated, but I just want you to know that there's a tremendous amount of depth. There's a tremendous amount of depth, and you can take this as far as you want or make it as simplistic as you want. Okay. So 26, 2 plus 6 is 8. 8 is the day. Okay. And and we're going to take that. The year, 1961. If you add 1 plus 9 plus 6 plus 1, it adds up to 17. But 17 is not a single digit, right? So 1 plus 7 is 8. So the birth year becomes an 8. Now that's made up of a 1, a 9, a 6, and a 1. And it also brings the 7, the 1, I get the 1 and the 7. So when we're holistically looking at challenges, when we're looking at the bottom of the chart, like I did here with my name, and you see all the zeros, the red zeros in the middle of the chart on the left-hand side, and where we're looking at the blueprint intensity in this area here in the middle, we're looking at 2s. I got a lot of 2s. I'm missing a 2 here on the left. I'm missing all the same numbers, by the way, because I took a letter out. So I'm still missing a 2, but missing a 2 isn't such a big deal for me because I've got a lot of 2s in my birth day and my birth month. Okay. I'm also missing a 6, and I'm challenged in my 6. Because my challenges are 6066. So I've got 6 3 times, but my birthday is 26. And even though I don't have it in my expression, I have it in the new expression as 66. So whenever you get that balance, you're looking for it in other parts of the chart. So the 6 is there. So the first thing you're looking at when you're looking at challenges, and you're looking what's missing, and if it's a part of the date of birth. Then I have 7. The next number is 7. It's not in my name. There's no 7, but I have 7s. It's a 27-9 when we add it all together. So I do have a 7, plus I have a 7 in the 17. So again, it mitigates it. If these numbers are not present, they become karmic. They become karmic if they're missing in your name and they're nowhere else in your chart. That means it's a major challenge. So if somebody didn't have any 7s in their chart, it would be up in the line above, which is, we have to talk about this because trust is huge in your life, and the lack of trust and the lack of self and whatnot. And then the following is 8. So 8 is also in my chart because when we go back to, let me just make sure I'm at the right place here. Here. So the 2 plus 6 is 8 and the 1 plus 7 is 8. So you see I have my 8s. So the balance, that means that my lifetime here, I'm working specifically in these areas of my life, but I'm not working on all these other areas. Even though it's not in my name, it's not that big of a deal. I can gain things, but it's not that big of a deal. So I just want to bring this to your attention. All right. So when you add 0 plus 2 plus 2 plus 6 plus 1 plus 9 plus 6 plus 1, you come up with 27. What's important about the destiny is the 2 in the 27 is early on in my life. That would mean that I was this child. I was someone who was shy. I was someone who didn't speak up. I was highly sensitive as a child in my 2, because this was how my childhood went. When I tell people that I was a wallflower and I wouldn't talk to strangers and I wouldn't speak when spoken to, people go, tell me. That's not you. It was me. Ask my mother, ask anybody. I wouldn't do something for the first time. I was paralyzed by fear. I wouldn't do things the first time because I was so in my backseat. That's who I was. And then 7 has to do with my adult life, which 7 has to do with me as someone who, 7's trust could be an issue. It could also be somebody looking for spirituality and spiritual enlightenment, which is definitely in alignment with where I am. 7 is also a wise soul. 7, I have so many people that are attracted to my 7s. I read for people with 7s in their charts all the time because 7s will only accept information from 2 numbers, a 9, a 7. Well, usually a 7 because we're like-minded, but a 4, somebody who has a 4 in their chart. That's the person who learned by doing, that has that work ethic and organization. They'll only take that information. I read for 7s all day long. There's so many people that a 7 will not look to as a resource. They don't trust them. But anyway, so I've got the 2, I've got the 7, and 2 plus 7 equals 9. Now there's an empty block over here because if this was a master number, let's just say it turned into 11, then 11 it would be a 2, right? Because 1 plus 1, but there's nothing there. So it's a 9. All right. I'm going to speed this up. Month of birth. So when we talk about your influential learning is the part of your life that you had from 0 to age 27. This is how you learn. That was me and my 2. And that is the month of birth. So that's my month from above. So you take the 2 from above and you put it in influential learning. So influential learning has its own component. And we're going to talk about it when we talk about homework. Okay, what influential learning means. So it's in your 2. Okay, the blueprint, personal experiences. This is the next phase from age 28 to age 57, which has to do with the day of birth. So you take, I don't know why that's not right. It says 17. It's not 17. It's 26. It's 26/8. So that's my day of birth. Oh, hold on. Day of birth. They're taking my personal experiences. No, the personal experiences is the month of birth, the 2/6. My mistake. Okay, so it's 2/6 and it comes to 8. And then the harvest results have to do with the end of life, which has to do with the year, which is 17, and 1 plus 7 equals 8. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to calculate for yourself, taking your day of birth, your month of birth, your year of birth, and fill out this chart. And then what we're going to do when we reconvene is if you want to submit it to me early and let me know, I can do that. And then I can prepare for you the positive, negative for each of those numbers. So you have the details of that and we can talk about that. So the sooner you get yours done, I will send you via email what the numbers mean and the positive, negative, and what that means for each of these categories. Does that make sense? Questions? Awesome. I'm sorry that it took so long. It was, but I tried to make it go faster. So if you have any questions here, just reach me. You got my cell phone number. The sooner you get this page to me, the better. And then we'll go through. There's other parts of the chart that are here. Oh, by the way, the corresponding letters, there's a chart here as well that has the ones. So this is the chart that you're going to start to memorize, which is that one, which is ones. So however you start to memorize this, I mean, you can use it as a reference right now, but basically when we start getting to your name, this is the reference charts. So which every letter, you're going to put the numbers associated with it. And then we have this information here and here, there's your homework. Thank you for your time and attention.
Of course.
All right.
I already did actually while you were chit-chatting.
Oh, good. Of course you did. Well, you write it down and you send it to me and I'll get you your.
The only thing was the personal experience one. It says expression and destiny.
Yeah, that's wrong.
Okay, what was it again? Because I was calculating.
So what you're doing is you're doing your day. So the personal experiences, I don't know why I did this. So what we're looking at is your, give me a quick second here. Hold on. So we're looking at your first, I'm looking at my chart. Okay, so personal experiences. I don't know why that's happening there. I calculate, I put the wrong one here. What I want is I want your influential learning. I want your personal experiences is the day of birth. Okay, which is your birthday above. Okay, and then the harvest results have to do with the year of birth. So personal experiences, I just have the wrong, it says expression and destiny, but that's not what it is.
Okay.
So on the right, that's not your expression and destiny. What I want is I want your day of birth, which is your day of birth, the total of your day of birth.
Okay.
Where it
Awesome.
says expression and destiny here. I calculated that wrong. Morris. Okay. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. If you have any questions, we will hopefully be in a different location. If not, we might be in my living room again. Have a good one. Thank you so much. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, we're gonna stop and we're going to.
I didn't even record this. I thought I did.
Oh,